Chapter 2 Into the Sunset. Arizona, I-10 heading west. Night of November 2nd. Sunrise, 6:42 a.m. If anyone had found you that day crumpled behind the desk, they would only see a disheveled corpse. And while the sun is in the sky, that's all you are. The blood you got back in El Paso, before you hopped into your Honda, awakens the moment the sun sets. The return to consciousness is instantaneous and agonizing. You open your eyes in shadow and wait for your eyes to adjust. Your limbs are still heavy, as if crushed by the weight of the sun. As you wait, you think about the Camarilla, and you remember what the elders made you do to prove that you were more than some clanless scavenger. You were desperate then, and you knew you had to obey. They paired you with another desperate young Canaanite, a charming young man named Julian Sim, who talked too much. He was something that other kindred called an Assamite. And back then, you didn't know if there was another clan like the Gangrel, or another sect like the Camarilla. No one ever bothered to tell you. Julian had the eager energy of a congressional page and the glittering, patient eyes of a reptile. He was out for himself, and so were you, and that gave you something in common. You remember Julian's lime green geo-tracker crunching to a halt over gravel. You jumped out and felt the sand beneath your feet. Still hot hours after sunset, though the night air felt cool. Julian was well dressed, despite the rough work. But back then, you always wore the same thing out in the desert. Coveralls, with the name you sewn on the patch. Not your real name, of course. That person died in a strip mall parking lot. Those old coveralls let you pass as a maintenance worker just about anywhere. They were better protection from prying eyes than any Nosferatu's invisibility arts. Carrying water for the ivory tower, huh, Grendel? Julian said, with a chuckle, hoisting the plastic gallon jugs out of the back of the tracker. Each read, Buena Suerte, or something like that in blue Sharpie. You didn't laugh. This wasn't humanitarian work. Or maybe it was. The desert princes still fear the thing that slept under those sands. They told you that it woke up hungry. It would tear this land apart. How long you think we're gonna do this? Julian asked. Julian talked too much, but sometimes he cut through the bullshit with words that carried constellation of meaning. How long? Decades? Centuries? We, neonates, nothing but larvae in the eyes of their elders. And this awful work, this is how we survive to see another night. And as far as I can see, it's the only way. Complaining won't save anyone. Julian grimaced as he wrestled with the water. I want to do more than survive, Grendel, he said. That's all our elders do. They endure, they persist. What kind of existence is that? Now, I'm not an idiot. I have better things to do than run off into the desert and get destroyed. But can you really do this for another 50 years? Mortals uploading their brains into computers and colonizing the poles of Venus, and we're dragging water through the desert in a geo-tracker. A hot desert wind whipped Julian's black hair around his head, and he counted the gallons of water. The Camarilla gave you a job they considered necessary, even vital. Desperate migrants stumbled through this part of the desert, fleeing violence in Mexico and Central America for the promise of a better life in the States. Without water, many died. Aid groups dropped water and supplies for the migrants. The year before, the Camarilla had infiltrated and supplanted one of those aid groups, replacing their members with you and Julian. Your job: position the water above the scattered layers of the Nosferatu Elder, the one known as Rare Mouse. The victims he claimed would give him enough blood to prevent his full awakening. "This sucks," Julian said as you checked the GPS coordinates in your Garmin. "I mean, I know that we are, but I know what we do to survive. But this is just so stupid. It's inefficient. It's wasteful. This was how the world ran 2-3 centuries ago, Grendel. Before anyone invented flowcharts or assembly lines. It was horrible work, but what choice did you have? It was either that or destroy yourself. Though you never will forgive the Camarilla for compromising you like that." You sighed and did what had to be done. Julian always had plans to get out and move up in those nights, and you let yourself dream alongside him. But his plans never came to anything. The Camarilla elders cared nothing for the state of your soul, interested only in immediate convenience of keeping Rear Mouse quiet, and lacking the courage to stop him themselves. You wanted to fight back, to assert your dignity as a free vampire. But they were always watching. Even when they weren't present, the elders saw far across space and deep into your soul. You knew you belonged to them, though you hated it. So, that night, you checked your position on the Garmin one last time, dropped off the water, and got back in Julian's geo-tracker. An obedient little servant. Did the elders laugh at your rage? A few months later, Julian got his money, though you never learned how. Something to do with venture capital interest in the software he was developing? Anyway, one night he just disappeared, leaving you with the geo-tracker. A stack of CDs with file names written on them in blue Sharpie, and instructions to deliver them to an industrial park in Austin. You looked up his new company, 2100X, which is apparently located in Denver. But you could never find an address or a contact number. And that's been your life ever since. You can move your hands now. You rise and glance outside through the narrow crack between the desk and the wall. It's full dark. Your hunger is an ache in the back of your gums that leads right up behind your eyes and threatens to turn into a migraine. You can hold off the beast a few more nights like this, but you'll need to feed soon. You head into the dingy and abandoned convenience store part of the abandoned filling station. Wander past dusty and empty shelves and glance outside through gaps in the boarded-up windows. Shadow patrols, nose snuffling at a broken linoleum tiles. You can't see the strange eagle, but you still smell blood. It's faded, but impossible to ignore. Movement catches your eye, but it's just your reflection in the broken glass of the empty display case. You stare into the eyes of the haunted-looking, eternally young man. You look like shit. Bloodshot eyes, skin pulled back from your nails and teeth, thrift store clothes. Even your satchel looks like someone dragged it down the highway. You check your satchel. Your deliveries, the USBs, are still in there. Then you hear sound outside. A few whispered words in Spanish. Weeping. Thank God. Food. It looks like they used the entrance you made to get inside. But they've boarded it back up again, so no one from the road can spot their flashlights. You're in the middle of the disused convenience store, 3 aisles, invisible in the darkness. At the far side of the store, a short hallway leads to 3 doors. A locked bathroom, straight ahead. The office where you slept that night, and what you guess is a storage room to the left. The mortals are trying to open it. You count 4 of them. A man and a woman in their mid-20s. An ancient woman and a frail and gray-haired old man, even smaller than the old woman. The young woman whispered something in Spanish you don't catch, then forces the storage door open with a shriek of metal. Not much here, the young man says, sweeping the storage room with a flashlight. He's traveling heavy. Crowbar, backpack, water bottles, road flares. Those are your road flares. They must have found your Honda. Then, the young man spins and runs his flashlight across the wall. But your Lobo has already hidden behind the counter. Whoever they are, they're foolish or desperate to bring a woman in her 70s at least, and a guy who isn't built for this kind of work. You're surprised that they're this far north without having already made contact with someone. The younger woman starts jiggling the handle to the bathroom, which is between the storage room and the office. Bored and fearless, the old man hobbles down one of the aisles, and your beast screams behind your eyes. You're not going to risk a snatch and grab turning into a massacre, or a tired old man's heart suddenly stopping. You stay hidden. You've done terrible things to survive, but there are certain rules you've established for yourself. You tell yourself that they, too, help you survive. You've seen what happens to vampires who cannot establish laws for their own souls. Or maybe you're just weak. That's been a general assessment for quite a few vampires you've met since the Embrace. You wait in the shadows. So you have an excellent view of the young woman finally gets the bathroom door open, and the thing inside bites down on her face. The woman manages half a scream. The old man turns. He sees the mutilated corpse dangling from those huge jaws, and moans in horror. The thing holding the corpse hurls it towards the old man, missing you by inches and splattering your face with blood. And both the corpse and the old guy go down. You absently note that the woman's corpse is already drained of blood. Then you turn to confront the thing in the bathroom. The Kindred of Clan Nosferatu are never beautiful, but this one is particularly hideous, stark naked, and so tall he has to stoop to get out of the room, with a flattened skull and huge bat-like ears that make it impossible to imagine what it looked like in life. And then you look into his flat black eyes and realize that there's nothing there. April 2007. In the end, we're weaker than they are, Julian says, watching a trio of teenagers cross the 7-Eleven parking lot. He sips blood from his extreme gulp and then uses it to gesture to the mortals. I mean, spiritually, we're weaker. We're like scurvy victims or something. We can't heal. The beast, you say. I'm not going to ask you what you've done in its grip, Julian says, or what you've done on your own and blame the beast for. But I know the beast will eat you if you're not careful. It'll eat your soul and live behind your eyes. When that happens to one of us, the Camarilla call them whites and hunt them down. And the Assamites, you ask? I don't know, Julian says. I never had the courage to ask. The Nosferatu, a mindless white that had once been a Nosferatu, spots you. But then it turns, and though you cannot see the tough-looking young guy and the old woman, you know that they're cornered in the storage room. As the dead woman's blood runs down its chin, the creature weighs its options. It turns to the storage room, moving awkwardly because the huge iron chain is fastened around one of its legs. Then something lashes out of the darkness, and the white reels back, more in surprise than pain. The young man strikes the creature again with his crowbar. That won't be enough to fend off a monster like this. These people will be dead in moments, and then the fallen Nosferatu will turn its mindless rage on you. You shout and rally the young man to fight the white off. The road flares! That will do more against the monster than a crowbar. You shout, trying Spanish and then English, knowing that the man's courage alone will not save him. Only the terror of an open flame can stop the rampaging monster. But he does not listen. You rush forward, but it's too late. When you reach the storage room, the white has torn both the old woman and the young man to bloody shreds. Swollen with their blood, it turns to you, and you can only back away. It picks up the unconscious old man and throws him at you. But you duck, and his body bounces off the wall with a wet thud. Now swollen with blood, the white again turns its attention to you. Perhaps it considers you an interloper in the haven it has claimed. Your Lobo leaps over the dead woman's corpse and snaps at the creature, buying you time to plan. The dead man's crowbar is useless against this hulking Nosferatu, but a broken mop on the ground might work. A wooden stake through the heart doesn't destroy a vampire, but it will paralyze one. The dead man also has more of your road flares. Wave some fire at the white, and it'll run screaming into the night. But you have the courage to hold an open flame. The fighting has badly damaged the convenience store ceiling. If you're quick, you might be able to climb up one of the remaining shelves into the vents, where the Nosferatu can't fit, or, looking carefully, you realize how extensive the damage is. Maybe you can just bring the whole ceiling down. Whatever you do, you only have a few seconds to decide. The creature wants you gone, but it's so stupid and vicious that it will kill you if you try to leave the way you came. You light a flare and wave it at the white until it retreats. The beast fears fire and sunlight, and the white is nothing but rage, fear, and hunger. You grab one of the road flares from the dead man, and hoping that you have the courage to confront your own beast, ignite it. You hold the flare aloft, forcing yourself not to scream and throw the flare away. The Nosferatu shrieks and lashes out at you, while you're distracted by your own beast's fear. A vicious jab that breaks a rib and knocks you backwards. But you hold onto the flare. Seeing you undaunted, the white howls piteously. When you step forward, it flees, crashing through the boarded-up front door and disappearing into the desert night. You hold the flare for a second longer, just to show your beast who's boss, and then toss it aside. You check your iPhone. It's broken. You take out the SIM card and destroy it. Then destroy the spares you carry. You wear a watch because sunrise is never far from your mind. And yet, that's broken too. Then you check your satchel, but the USBs are all safe. Your hunger is still a dull ache in your teeth. You're still in control for now. You check yourself again in the cracked glass of the empty display case. There's blood on your hands and face, and clumps of gore in your hair, and your shirt and jeans are in tatters. You try the sink in the bathroom, but the water has been shut off for years. After a few minutes, you find some cleaning supplies. Being dead, you don't worry too much as you scrape the blood off your face with a sponge. After a few minutes, you look like an escaped mental patient. But not like a Ramiro zombie. No one in their right mind would pick you up as a hitchhiker, but you might be able to reach town. You head back to where you left your car, but it's gone. Instinctively, you check your satchel one more time, but everything is there. Everything that just happened was a distraction. Someone else's problem. You can reach the outskirts of Tucson before dawn, and from there make your way to the new prince's court. Just deliver these USBs, and you'll make enough money for a new car. You'll be able to keep doing this, night after night. You start walking.